The Toronto Maple Leafs have suffered a big blow with defenseman Morgan Rielly going down with a serious injury, and longtime Washington Capital Nicklas Backstrom is going to be sticking around longer. He's inked a new extension. We'll discuss both of those situations coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have a couple of news items I want to take a look at here today. And let's kick things off with the Washington Capitals re-signing longtime forward Nicklas Backstrom to a 5-year contract extension. Now, he's currently coming to an end of a 10-year deal that he signed obviously almost 10 years ago. Remember, he was making an average annual salary at that point of $6.7 million. The new 5-year deal is worth $46 million for an average annual value of $9.2 million. Certainly provides Backstrom with some long-term security, gets him into the later stage of his 30s, and he's still a very productive player. The other key thing here to look at is the salary cap percentage that his last deal took was 11.3%. So the $6.7 million was 11.3 of the total upper limit of the cap at that point in time, and the new deal is the exact same thing. Now, the other key feature here that I'm not sure if you may or may not know is that Nicklas Backstrom did not use an agent to negotiate this deal. He did all the negotiating directly with the general manager, completely on his own, and it looks like he got himself a pretty good deal. I'm not real shocked that he got the term that he did, but to get that kind of money in all the clauses that we'll get into here momentarily, I think he did a great job negotiating it, and I wonder if that might maybe see a trend change where some more players, especially in the latter stage of their careers, try to do that more on their own. Obviously, if he can get that kind of deal and not have to pay a cut to an agent, that's certainly going to put a lot more money in his pocket. Now, this contract pays out a fair bit of money in signing bonuses. As I mentioned, the total value is $46 million. $25 million of it will be paid out in the form of signing bonuses over those 5 years, and he also has some trade protection as well. The first 3 of the 5 years, he has a full no trade clause, so he can't be traded anywhere without his consent. In the final 2 years, he has a modified no trade where he can list 15 teams that he would not accept a trade to. So that pretty much covers just shy of half the league. So clearly, Nicklas Backstrom is going to be with the Capitals likely the rest of his career. This will force them as well to protect him during the Seattle expansion draft that'll be coming up during this time frame, which is you're going to see a lot of these newer contracts, especially for higher end players, making sure that they have that no trade protection in their contract, where that's going to be coming up here, which I'm sure that the Capitals would have protected him anyway. At this point, he's still a very productive, very important player, but it just kind of makes sure that he doesn't get taken into the expansion draft when that's obviously not what he's signing up for here. So Nicklas Backstrom's contract, I think, is pretty valuable. The only thing that kind of surprised me a little bit, I thought they might want a little bit less term, a little bit less money, but overall, for the kind of player he's been and the value he's been to this franchise over the last decade plus, I certainly think that as productive as he's being, I think this is a pretty good contract for both sides. So let me know what your thoughts are on the Backstrom contract down in the comments and we can discuss further. Now, the other big news here today is that the Toronto Maple Leafs are going to be without a very important piece in their lineup here. Defenseman Morgan Rielly will be out a minimum of 8 weeks, so it could be longer than that, with a fractured foot. Now, the Leafs have certainly had their fair share of injury issues this year, especially on that blue line. Jake Muzzin's already been out with a foot issue as well. He's been listed week to week. Not quite clear exactly how far or how close he is to returning. So you take away those 2 guys on the Leafs blue line, and that certainly creates a big issue. Now, they've recalled defenseman Rasmus Sandin, who just recently returned to North America after having a really strong tournament at the World Juniors. And they've also recalled Timothy Liljegren as well. So both their top guys from the Marlies, their top 2 D prospects, will have an opportunity to be in Toronto. It's not quite clear if they're going to play with 7D or how they're going to put their lineup, if Liljegren's just there as insurance or if they're actually going to put him into play. You would think normally without Liljegren being there, Sandin likely, I would think, will probably play in the top pair with Tyson Barrie. They'd probably go with Travis Dermott and Justin Hall for your second pair, and then CC and Marinson for the third pair, more than likely. So does that sound like a defense group that can really be solid defensively and help you win hockey games and be solid enough to get a good spot here into the playoffs? I would certainly think likely not. A lot of those guys are going to have to play above expectations. A lot of those guys are going to have to certainly improve, especially on the defensive side of the puck here. And some of them, I'm just not sure that they're really capable of that. I mean, Liljegren and Sandin have tons of potential, but, obviously they don't have much experience right now. So to rely on them heavily going down the stretch into the playoffs might not be, the best thing for all parties involved here. So could this alter the Maple Leafs' plans for their, trade deadline plans and how they're going to go about things? It's already been talked about, already been rumored that the Leafs likely would want to add some defensive help before the deadline, depending on what they could squeeze in here with their salary cap being so tight. Of course, the goaltending situation is, something that has to be monitored as well. They're trying to get Hutchinson into more games to determine if he can be that backup goalie longer term, if they're going to build their confidence in him, or do they need to go shopping for something else in that regard. I mean, the forward group, I think, for the most part, is relatively set. They've had, obviously, to deal with some injuries as well, but between what they have already and what they have in the minors, I don't really expect the Leafs to really make any acquisitions in the form of a forward to really help out. I think they're in pretty good shape that way. It's just a matter of hopefully having everybody healthy for a playoff run, but the back end is really the cause of concern here going into the trade deadline. So it'll be interesting to see how this may or may not alter their plans. I mean, with Rielly being out, for 8+ weeks, that really takes him pretty deep here into the regular season. I guess it's possible he could be back before the end of the season, but there wouldn't be much time left. And if the things do drag on with the injury a little longer than anticipated, which is certainly quite possible with saying minimum of 8 weeks, they very well could even go into the playoffs, assuming that they hold on here and do well enough to make it, that they may not have him for the start of it. It's, certainly a possibility. He could be back, but at this point, there's certainly no way to say with absolute certainty that he would be. So this is a big blow for Toronto. Let me know what you think down in the comment section. Will this alter Kyle Dubas's plans for the trade deadline? Do you think maybe with Muzzin and now Rielly both being out longer term, that maybe we'll see a move sooner than later, and maybe they'll tap into that forward depth that they have so much of to try to acquire a pretty solid defenseman, somebody who's got some experience on that back end who can really help them secure their playoff spot and really add some extra depth for the playoffs as well. Let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments. Let me know who you think might be some good players for them to target, and maybe even some mock trades, and we can discuss further. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing and turning on your notifications so you don't miss any future content, and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it as well. I'd appreciate it if you did. As always, thank you for watching, and I will catch you next time.